bad news for AMD GPU sales might mean good news for you, because at the same day I'm seeing AMD confirms Radeon GPU sales have nosedived, I've been seeing some really big sales on AMD graphics cards. Including at Newegg, I was just noticing AMD upgrade deals from Newegg. A couple of these really stand out. It wouldn't surprise me if these sell out quickly, so no idea if they'll still be available. I'll probably put a link in the video description or something, but $339.99 for an RX 6800 brand new, pretty crazy low. 6750 XT going for $289.99, and we are seeing RX 7800 XT for $469.99. Anyway, a lot of these are pretty low. 7700 XT, $369.99. Remember, those originally had an MSRP at $450, which was way too high. But the point is, a lot of sales showing up on these. But again, does that have something to do with slow sales? Now, I was digging into the financial report that AMD gave here, and it seems like they bundle their semi-custom market with their consumer graphics cards, and the semi-custom I think would include console sales. So dipping console sales would also be factored into their gaming revenue. And so it's, I think, unclear exactly how bad it is in each segment there, but overall it doesn't look great. So, interesting how all of that plays out, but again, maybe it helps out consumer pricing. Now, new GPUs are still not as good of a deal as you will find on the used market. So I really want to bring your attention to Jawa.gg, who sponsored today's video, and say that if you check out used listings, you can get much better deals than the new market, which is really exciting. And also you can fund your upgrade by getting an instant offer for your used GPU. You just click the button there, you tell them the model condition, they cover the shipping as part of the thing, and it's super convenient. So again, Jawa, where gamers buy, build, and sell. If you getting tired of trying to plan your whole PC build, they have a whole bunch of pre-built systems at a wide variety of price and performance levels, giving you an idea of how they perform in different games. And then they also have a really big Discord community, over 10,000 members last time I checked. And that way you could get a whole bunch of one-on-one help. A lot of people want that one-on-one build advice, confirmation that you're making good choices and all of that. It's a great place to get it. So best of all, I can get you $10 off your first purchase using code OWEN10 to save $10 off of that. And again, follow the link in the video description and or pinned comment to Jawa, where gamers buy, build, and sell. Now, in other AMD news, this is more going into the leaks and rumors side of things, so take it with a grain of salt. We're seeing headlines now that AMD's RDNA4 GPUs, which, maybe we'll hope that that'll turn things around, right, would incorporate brand new ray tracing engine, vastly different than RDNA3. Where is this coming from, though, right? You see headlines like this, and you're like, oh, this must be some big official announcement. No, of course it is leaks and rumors. So this one seems to be coming from Kepler. Now, Kepler has leaked many AMD, leaks accurately in the past, but I can also think I recall a few that didn't end up panning out. So I would not say that this is a 100% confirmed thing. But here's where the headlines are coming from. Take it for what you will. Kepler says RT looks brand new. Gets asked, how do you mean? As in the process it's using is new, or the performance/ability makes RT look like it's a brand new thing? And Kepler clarifies RDNA3 RT was based on RDNA2 with some improvements. RDNA4 RT looks completely different. So that's all we know of. So assuming Kepler actually has any sort of inside information on this, which is an assumption in and of itself, what could this mean? Well, so far, AMD hasn't had like a separate RT acceleration block, as I understand it. It's more that their shaders get used. Each compute unit has a bit of RT calculation ability within it. It's less of its own dedicated hardware block compared to what Intel and Nvidia are doing, so maybe this is a sign they're moving that way. I have no idea. Maybe this is all nonsense. In other AMD headlines I've seen, it's also implying that AMD's high-end for RDNA4 is also canceled. Looks like headlines like AMD's canceled RDNA4 GPU could have doubled the 7900 XTX's performance, would have had 9 shader engines, 200 compute units, and up to 20 chiplets. But that this is supposedly not going to be the case, and they'll focus on the more mid and lower range and not go that high end. Again, AMD's kind of in a bit of a difficult situation when it goes to the high-end GPUs, because once you compare them with NVIDIA counterparts, if the NVIDIA counterpart does have higher ray tracing performance, a better upscaler, and you're already spending a lot of money, then it may be, being, $50 cheaper, $100 cheaper, maybe isn't that big selling point at that point. However, I don't know, because if you actually look at the Steam hardware survey, the only AMD 7000 series GPU that shows up anywhere near the top end of that list that we actually see, I think is actually the 7900 XTX. So I don't know. It's hard to say all of this. It's leaks and rumors anyway, but I thought it was at least interesting stuff to talk about. Now, it's not like Nvidia doesn't have any of its own issues. We're seeing even more headlines about the RTX 4090s and their melting power connectors. It's very difficult to get an idea of what percentage of 4090 users are having this problem. I wish I had some actual statistic to give to you on that, because you see these posted online, but what percentage of actual users are having these problems? I don't know. I don't have any issues on my 4090, but I have one, right? Sample size of 1 is not great for a statistical basis, right? Anyway, this one's interesting in that it's reportedly melting both on the GPU end and what we've seen less commonly, also melting on the CPU side. Now, I wonder if we see less of these because fewer people actually have a PCIe 5.0 ready power supply that even has that connector. A lot of people are running the 8-pin connectors into a dongle that then connects to the GPU like this. So I wonder if that's why we see less of these. But anyway, I would really like to get to the bottom of how widespread that problem is. Another issue that I'd like to know how widespread the problem is the Intel CPU stability issue that we've been seeing so much about. I was trying to figure out if we have any sort of stats on this. I found this at WCCF Tech saying, by the way, all my sources will be linked in the video description. That a tester reveals only 5 out of 10 Core i9 13900K and 2 out of 10 Core i9 14900K CPUs were stable in auto profile. Intel and board partners yet to determine cause of stability issues. So basically, this headline is suggesting that somebody has tested a bunch of 10 13900Ks and seen that 5 of them were stable at the motherboard's default settings, which are those aggressively overclocked settings, which now Intel is saying we should need a baseline profile to kind of walk back on those settings because they're too aggressive for stability. And again, 2 out of 10 on the i9 14900K. But I was interested in where are they getting this information from? Did WCCF Tech perform the test? No, it looks like they're getting this information from a tester at the Chip Hell forums, where they were testing a bunch of them. It looks like a user named KMD Kai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, Command Kai. Whatever. Has managed to put several hundred. Now they're saying several hundreds of Intel Core i9 14900K and i9 1300K CPUs through a series of stability tests to see how well they respond to the auto profiles. Anyway, I hear footsteps upstairs. Sounds like my kids got home from school. Now, when I looked through this, when they break this down a bit, it looks like they're saying 4/5 out of 10 units stable. So this is saying out of 10 units. So it looks like their 13900Ks, they had 10 units stable, right? Like out of 10, out of 10, out of 10, out of 10, out of 10. But then this article saying, I don't know. Anyway, the point is, you need a massive number of these CPUs to be tested for stability to get any kind of a reasonable baseline for how widespread the issue is. And I'm just not sure we've seen testing at that level yet. I was hoping this would be something like that, but if we're just taking information off Chip Hell forums, I'm not quite sure that is, I mean, these numbers certainly look quite bad, but can we trust those numbers? I don't know. Now, in other Nvidia news, they are issuing some major updates to their ChatRTX. Looks like this has better photo search, AI speech recognition, and more LLM options. Now, I'm interested in this photo search. That seems kind of interesting if you kind of like type in a little more about what kind of photo you wanted and how that goes. I haven't actually tested out ChatRTX yet. Maybe it's something I could test at some point on the channel, but I don't focus too much on AI applications on the channel. I'm more about gaming performance, so we'll see. Now, Nvidia, also kind of doubling down on the AI performance, has been criticizing Microsoft's 45 TOPS requirement for AI PCs. And Nvidia is saying that that's only good enough for the most basic AI tasks, and for like more meaningful AI workloads, you would want substantially better AI performance like you would get from an Nvidia GPU. Obviously, Nvidia would have reasons to say this. Now, whether it's true or not, we'll have to see what sorts of applications people end up wanting to run locally versus run through the cloud. Because right now, so many of the big like LLMs and things like that run through the cloud. What are we really going to end up being on a regular basis? What is running locally on your PC, right? That's kind of the big question. We'll have to see how all of it ends up working out. Nvidia is also updating RTX Remix to have DLSS 3.5 Ray Reconstruction support. If you're like, wait, what is RTX Remix? These are basically mod tools where you can mod a lot of older games. It's not compatible with all games, but older games to insert things like path tracing, DLSS support, and all sorts of other stuff. It's a really cool tool. I've talked about it a lot in other videos, so I don't want to go too much into depth on all of that, other than mention it looks like it is updated to include Ray Reconstruction. Now, in other, talking about a lot of issues, right? The Intel stability issues and the Nvidia melting connectors. There's also been a big thing about the ROG Ally's SD card reader. And I found this article at The Verge saying that ASUS won't say if it will ever be truly fixed, and the company is dodging their questions. So if you follow this, it looks like they tried to pin down some direct questions from to ASUS about this. Like, has ASUS actually found a hardware fix for the faulty SD card readers? If someone RMAs their Ally to ASUS this way, will they get an SD card reader that no longer fails? The response was, our commitment is to assist all customers effectively. If any user suspects they're encountering issues with their products, we encourage them to reach out and make use of our RMA process as needed. They can expect us to provide a suitable resolution. So in other words, they dodged the question, right? Has ASUS found a hardware fix? They did not answer that question. If they RMA it, their Ally, will they get an SD card reader that no longer fails? They will get a suitable resolution. They dodged the question, right? They dodged other questions as well. What percentage of ROG Ally systems have this issue? We're not going to comment. So anyway, it looks like that we cannot comment on a lot of other questions as well. And then so when they when The Verge asks wait a second, you hadn't really answered the questions, they considered that for 2 days and then replied, we won't further comment beyond what has already been stated. So in other words, it sounds like the SD card reader is in pretty dire straits, and ASUS won't give exact numbers on how much they're having issues, whether they've actually have any hardware solution for that, or whether RMAing your ROG Ally will actually resolve the issue. Now, if they actually do have these things solved, they should say that, because by dodging the question, I'm just going to read it as no, they haven't fixed the problem, and you don't get a fixed one if you RMA it. At least that's how I'm going to read it until they respond otherwise. Now, in other news, in like GPU cooler news, we are seeing that ASUS has launched an RX 7900 XTX card with only 2 fans. So that's interesting because the 7900 XTX draws a lot of power. So this is moving into a 2-fan model rather than a 3-fan model. So there you go. That's now available. And in other 7900 XTX cooler model news, it looks like XFX, there I can say it, XFX has teased an XTX that is Phoenix Nirvana, but didn't actually reveal exactly what it would look like. There's just some hints that it might be a pretty cool cooler, but we don't know exactly what that's gonna be yet. So stay tuned. Now in more PC software news, I'll throw in that Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 has a system requirements minimum spec. I'm not gonna do a full system requirements video unless we get more information than that, because it's literally just a minimum spec. It does not say what frame rate it's targeting, what resolution it's targeting, what graphic setting it's targeting. It doesn't have a recommended spec yet. But if you're curious, the minimum GPU to run the game at some sort of settings and some sort of resolution and some sort of frame rate is an Nvidia GTX 1070 or an RX 5700 or an Intel Arc A580. Now, I will mention that these two, the AMD and Intel GPUs here, are roughly similar spec, whereas the 1070 is a bit further back from that. Now, possibly that could be, I've been noticing in some system requirements lists that I think they're hesitant to list AMD GPUs that no longer get driver updates. So maybe it's just going to a newer gen where they're getting driver updates. It's also not like miles apart. I think it's more like 20-ish% performance difference between those. I think we could pull up Tech PowerUp's GPU database and get some sort of an idea. Yeah, it looks like if we set 1070 as the baseline, they list the 5600, do we have a non-XT, no, sorry, 5700 non-XT. It's about 23% faster. So if your minimum spec was like 30 FPS here, it's not like this would be getting 60 and so it's ridiculous. It's like, okay, maybe this one's getting like 35 and this one's getting, 40-ish or 45 or, So the point is, yeah, they're not exactly the same spec. Also, sometimes that means the game is more optimized for one than the other, but not always. And the A580 is right in line with that 5700, it looks like. Anyway, that's what we know so far about the Hellblade 2 system requirements. The graphics looks incredible, and it looks like it's only targeting 30 frames per second on the consoles, so it could certainly be a demanding game. Although, being that it runs on Xbox means that they'll at least have to have settings that run on a Series S, so, that's probably why we can run it here. Now, in other PC game update news, Starfield had a major update. I believe it's still in beta, and I haven't tested it myself yet. Reading through it, a lot of this looked like more console-focused optimizations, specifically offering a 30, 40, and 60, or even an uncapped frame rate target for consoles. Now, I was interested in what that might mean for PC's CPU optimizations, because on consoles, some of the original speculation why they didn't offer a 60 FPS mode is that the console's CPUs might not be able to hit 60 FPS at all times, given how CPU limited the game could be in cities like New Atlantis and places like that. So I was curious if the work to hit a 60 FPS console mode would have paid off in PC optimizations on the CPU. And while I haven't tested that myself, I did look into whether or not anybody else had, and I did find this article at WCCF Tech saying that it did. Saying that there is CPU-limited scenario improvements on frame rate. So in other words, GPUs aren't running the game better, but if you were CPU-limited in certain scenes, that may have improved. And where did they get that information from? It looks like a YouTube video testing that out from MX Benchmark on PC, showing some improvements in CPU-limited situations. And so it looks like that could be the case. Some work could have been put into that for consoles getting up to 60 FPS, and then that helps us out on the PC as well. Now, in other kind of PC news, there's talks of, consoles and multi-platforms and Sony going more in on PC. Seeing this interesting tweet, PC has been a huge part of the success of Helldivers 2 in the US. With PC, Helldivers 2 is already the 7th highest grossing Sony published game in history. Without PC, it wouldn't currently rank among the top 20. That's a very interesting stat. Especially because this is the, I think, only Sony title to launch day one on PC along with console, and it looks like it did really well. Now, this also seems like the kind of game that just does well on PC, so, maybe not that this wouldn't always be the case for all of the day one launches, but I really do think the day one sales on PC would be a lot higher on Sony games if they would publish day one on PC, because you just have a lot more hype happening for the games on the initial launch date. So I think they would sell a lot better there than if you just launch them a couple years later and people may have kind of forgotten about it. Now, in bigger news, if it ends up being true, because this goes into the leaks and rumors side of things again. So Corden, being a leaker, not official information, but a well-known leaker for Xbox stuff, is saying that Xbox will go full multi-platform, including major brands like Halo and Forza, all the way onto PlayStation. Not only that, when you read this through, it almost feels like the next generation of Xbox consoles will just be PCs. Like, really. If, again, these leaks and rumors end up being true. So if you dig into this, where are the official quotes? Again, these aren't official from Microsoft, but the quotes from Corden, and he's going pretty big on this. He's reiterating that everything is going to PlayStation and/or Switch. He also again talked about Xbox consoles feeling a niche, a bit like the Steam Deck is doing for PC handhelds. On that lines, he also discussed the future of the ecosystem as more Steam-like in the future, with the ability to sideload PC stores like Steam itself. And apparently Microsoft had recently suggested as much. I don't know if they went quite that far, but anyway, the upside is that prices will be more affordable thanks to sales, and the ecosystem will be more open to developers. Meanwhile, the Xbox hardware will be dedicated to a specific niche. So, in other words, again, if this leak ends up actually matching reality, then we could see a world where Xbox consoles are just a really streamlined gaming-focused PC in the same way that like a Steam Deck is, right? Where it kind of feels like a console, although it's running PC games, and you could even sideload other, stores. You can even install Windows, right? So I don't know. This sounds like a really interesting thing. I definitely want to keep my eye out on that, because if Xboxes just become PCs next generation, that's a major change to the overall gaming landscape. And I'm curious, does that mean, are we then just only going to have PlayStation and Nintendo kind of keeping down the traditional console market? And what does that mean for them? I don't know. This is just very, very curious. Also, remember, Xbox was quoted as saying their next generation of Xbox will be the largest technological leap ever. Well, if every PC is an Xbox, technically, right? You see where we're saying that, right? Then, your 4090 or your 5090 would technically be an Xbox, if they want to go the route of Xbox as just a PC. So very curious what comes of this, if anything, but like I said, leaks and rumors, this is not official. We'll have to see what happens. I hope all of you have an excellent day.